What's going on, guys? It's your boy Ethan. Hope you're having a great day. Welcome back to another video on the channel. Another old school intro here. Of course, Boston Billiard outside, and it's a nice Friday. Yeah, we're just gonna walk in. Mask is ready to go. There's a 2-5 game going on actually, so hopefully we can get into that. That would be fun to finally get some 2-5 back on this channel and get video footage of it. So yeah, there's that. Not a lot to say in this intro. You guys don't really care. Let's get into the hands. Let's try to not punt some money, or maybe punt some money. Probably we'll punt some money. Hi. Yeah.
Good.
Nice.
6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Good luck.
I'm a genius.
We hop into the 2-5 game, buy in for the max of 1,000, and one of the very first hands we look down at is Ace King offsuit in the cutoff with 1,000 in our stack. The under the gun opens up the action to $20. The player to my right makes the call. Here with a premium hand in position, definitely a perfect candidate to 3-bet. I choose a sizing of $85. Folds all the way back to the small blind, who actually tanks for quite some time. Thinks about 4-betting but ends up making the fold. The under the gun player and the player to my right both make the call, so we are going to a flop 3 ways in position. The flop comes Queen, Jack 3, Rainbow, and action checks to me. Here, looking at what I want to do, I certainly can down bet and just continue here. I have all of the Ace, Queen, Ace, Jacks in my range. Considering we have 2 overs and a gut shot, and the Queen and Jack certainly can smash the under the gun player's range, we decide to just check it back in position and evaluate a turn. Turn comes a 4, and once again, action checks to me. It seems like someone has a pocket pair between like 5s and 10s, and another player just totally whiffed with a hand like Ace 10 or a suited connector. So here, given the action, now that both players checked to me twice, I decide to take a stab at it for $105. When I make this bet here, I've already committed myself to barrel on the river here if my read is right. So the under the gun player thinks and folds, and the player to my right makes the call. So we're going to a river, which comes another 4, another total brick, and he checks to us very quickly. Here, assuming that he might be calling with a lower pocket pair, I'm going to have to put maximum pressure on him, and I fire for a larger sizing of $415. He snap calls because it clearly wasn't a tough decision for him. He calls with pocket 9s, and our stack takes a pretty large hit first hand of this session. Hand number 2, we are in the big blind, and I bought the button because I had to go to the ATM and reload after that first punt. We look down at deuce 5 of diamonds, and there's an open to $15. There's 1 caller middle position, and I'm already in this pot for $7, so we might as well just make the call for 10 more, and we're going to a flop. Flop out of position. Flop comes 5-9 Jack Rainbow. Flopping bottom pair, sure, I guess. Action checks all the way around, and we're going to a turn. Turn is a beautiful deuce of hearts, brings in a backdoor flush draw, and we improve to bottom 2. So for value, obviously going to be betting here. I bet $20, and interesting enough, both players actually make the call. So we're going to a river, see what happens. The river comes a 6. This is not really a card that changes a whole lot. I think my bottom 2 pair should be good here a lot of the time still. So I bet $75. The preflop raiser snap calls us. The other player folds, and we show our hand. He had King Jack, so we got some value turning 2 pair. Next hand is kind of fun, let's say. It's pretty fun. We look down at Queen Jack of clubs, playing 6-handed here and with 1,000 in our stack. I'm in the small blind, and the under the gun player opens up the action to $15. There are 2 callers of the $15, and the button now 3-bets to $80. Here, action's onto me. I obviously don't. I think flatting is the worst option out of the 3 that I have, and there's been a lot of 3-betting going on, so I know that people's 3-betting ranges are wider than normal, especially with this player on the button. It's fairly early on to the session, and the only time I've ever 3-bet was when I had Ace King, so potentially it could look like I have a very narrow 3-betting and 4-betting range. So with suited Broadway cards, I actually go for a 4-bet to $240. I probably would like this better if I was in position, but out of position, we're just going to go with it. We're going with this hand right now. The under the gun player folds, the other 2 callers fold. actions onto the button, and he folds. So we get this one through, which is really nice. The under the gun player said he folded ace king of diamonds, so definitely getting a little too much credit for betting here, so happy to take down the pot. The next hand, we have 10-9 of hearts in the big blind, and the button opens up the action to $15. Small blind folds, actions onto me, suited connector, definitely going to be 3-betting to $55. He makes the call, and we're going to a flop, heads up, out of position. The flop comes queen 6-6 rainbow, and here I think it's a perfect board for me to c-bet on. I certainly have a ton of pocket pairs in my range, and so I actually down bet to $40, a little bit smaller. I think this is something that I'd be doing with a lot of holdings. And he makes the call for $40, and we're going to a turn. Turn comes the 9 of clubs. It brings in a ton of draws with the club draw, also 8-7, Jack 10, a whole lot that definitely can improve on this turn here. So here out of position, I think sometimes I can check this since I do have some showdown now, but I think maybe I can get value from a hand that called really light on the flop, or a hand like 7s or 8s. So I bet $85, and once I make this bet, he grabs the $85 in chips and ends up thinking. With this action, it seems like he doesn't have a strong enough hand to raise. I think a lot of queen X hands would certainly raise here, considering how draw heavy this board is, and also, of course, any 6 is going to be raising as well. So it doesn't seem like he has a strong enough hand to raise, or a hand that really beats us too much, so he decides to just make the call. So we're going to the river pretty confident that we are ahead right now. The river is a 3 of spades, it's a total blank, and I'm out of position first to act here. Can I bet for really, really thin value? Can I get called by 8s or 7s? Not really sure, but here I opted to just check. If I bet here, it's really, really thin value, and I don't want to turn my 9 into a bluff. So I check, letting him make the action, and he actually throws out a bet of $250. I snap call. Like I said, I was pretty confident that I was ahead on the river here, and he shows 8-7 of diamonds. So we take that one down with a pair of 9s, and we are pretty right on our read. The very next hand, we pick up ace jack of diamonds in the small blind, and there are 3 limpers to me. Here, suited Broadway ace, we're going to be raising it up on a larger side, out of position to $40. We get one caller in middle position who has a pretty large stack, and I'm pretty sure he covers us, so let's go to a flop, out of position once again. The flop comes Jack 8-3 rainbow. I'm first to act, flopping top on a pretty dry board here. I am going to be betting on the larger side because I think I have a pretty bluffy image at this point. So I bet $65, and as expected, I think he's going to be calling fairly wide on this flop. So he makes the call, and we're going to a turn. Turn comes the deuce of spades. It brings in a backdoor flush draw. And like I said, I'm going to continue betting big because I do have this bluffy image. I size up to $185. He tanks, he thinks it over, trying to get value from draws, trying to get value, maybe even 8x for a very light call, but he eventually makes the fold, and we take this one down, winning 2 hands in a row. Every dealer change, or every 30-ish minutes, there's been a $25 bomb pot, so this is one of those hands here. We have king 4 offsuit under the gun, and it's a bomb pot, 25 bucks, 6 ways, so we're going to a flop with 150 in the middle. The flop comes 7-8-4, 2 diamonds, and actioned onto me. Here, bottom pair, we're just going to check, and action checks all the way around. The turn is a pretty decent card for us. It's the ace of diamonds. So we improved the bottom pair, and along with a nut flush draw, definitely going to be betting with a pretty strong draw. I bet $100, and only one player makes the call in position. We're going to a turn which comes in offsuit 6. I am first to act here, and I think I just have to fire a bluff here on this pot. If he has a 5, then so be it, or if he has maybe 2 pair, then so be it. Considering that any player can have any 2, I think I can comfortably just have to bluff here, and I'm just praying that it'll work a lot of the time. So I fire $225. He thinks about it and ends up folding ace-9 suited face up. So we luckily take this one down, get the bluff through, and pick up a bomb pot, which is always nice. I think this is my first bomb pot I've ever won. Next hand, once again, out of position in the big blind with 8-7 offsuit, and we're playing 5-handed. The button opens up the action to $15. The small blind calls, and here with 2 connected cards, I guess we're going to toss in $10 more and make the call. So off to a flop, which comes 10-4-5 rainbow. Action checks to the button, who c-bets $20. Small blind fold and gets out of the way, and here I have a gut shot. I decided to just call and peel one here. Really not sure what I'm thinking here, but I decided to just call for the hell of it. And we're going to a turn. Turn comes in 8, so we improve to a pair actually, along with our gut shot. I check, and he bets $40 once again. Here, I don't think that I can fold just yet, especially since I peeled on the flop and now I actually turn a pair. So I call the $40 and we're going to a river. The river's a 10, and here I debate between turning my hand into a bluff or just checking it for showdown. I elected to just check here, and the button now fires for a third time of $70. I tank, and I just feel like I'm being milked to call here. It's certainly a great price for me to just call with a pair of 8s and probably lose this all the time. So as much as I'm getting the right price, I just don't feel like this bet sizing is really a bluff a lot of the time. So I avoid myself making a donkey-like call, even though like if I'm peeling on the flop and then turning a pair, then I kind of just sometimes just have to go with it. I decided to just fold and save myself the $70, and we lose this one. Hand after this, we pick up ace-king offsuit, once again on the big blind. The early position player opens up the action to $20. A middle position player makes the call and actions onto us. I actually decided to just play this a little bit trickier. Sometimes just got a flat with ace-king, especially out of position. I really don't like playing this hand out of position. So we're just going to be calling and playing this fairly straight up. So we're going to a flop 3 ways. The flop comes queen, 3-4, 2 diamonds. Really not a great flop for us since we brick everything. And luckily for us, action checks all the way around. So we're going to see a free turn. The turn is the king of clubs. So we improved the top now, which is awesome. There are 2 flush draws on the board. So I fire a bet of $40. We get one caller who is the pre-flop raiser in early position. So we're going heads up to a river. The river's a 4, and now I feel like any king is basically chopping at this point. If he's calling our 40, he could be on a flush draw, which we would never get value from anyways, or he could have a hand like king X, like king 10, king jack, king 9 maybe, who is basically pretty confident with his hand, although the queen kicker is going to be playing a high percentage of the time. Obviously not this time since we have ace king. So I decided to size up and overbet the pot to $175, trying to get max value from king X holdings and maybe even get a light call from queen X holdings as well. He thinks and ends up deciding to make the call, throwing the chips in there. I show my hand and we are good. We're running hot right now, things are going our way, and here in the cutoff we pick up pocket 7s playing 6-handed. I have 1850-ish in our stack, and the player to my right opens up the action to $15. Here in position, pocket 7s, just going to be making the call for 15, and the small blind calls as well. Let's go to a flop 3 ways, which comes 8-7 deuce rainbow. Small blind checks, and the preflop raiser c-bets $20. Here, this board really doesn't favor the preflop raiser as much as I do, and we're in position, so there's really not a whole lot of scare cards that can come our way. I decide to just make the call for $20, so we're going heads up to a turn. Turn comes the jack of spades, brings in a backdoor flush draw, and he bets once again for $35. Obviously going to be raising here, even though a hand like 10-9 did get there, which would be pretty unfortunate. Regardless, there's a flush draw out there. We have a set. We're definitely going to be increasing the size of the pot. I raised to $125, trying to get calls from spade draws, jack X, or maybe even an overpair like kings or queens. So with this 125 bet, he decides to make the call, and we're going to a river. River, I'm really hoping to pair the board or just a total brick. The river comes a 3, total brick here at this point, so when he checks to us, I'm trying to figure out what kind of sizing I want to put out there for value. Certainly can try to bet really large, overbet the pot, or bet a pot size bet to mainly only get value from overpairs. But this is a spot where I just really want to get paid a high percentage of the time if he has a hand with showdown value. So I bet around 2/3 pot here to a sizing of $225. He tanks, he thinks about it for quite some time, and ends up tossing in a chip, making the call. We show our set of sevens, and we take down another pretty big pot here. After our set of sevens, we have ace-10 offsuit in the cutoff, sitting with over 2,000 in our stack. I open up the action to $15, and every player left to act makes the call. So we're going to a flop multi-way. Flop comes Jack 10-8 rainbow, and now the small blind just leads out for $15. The big blind folds and actions onto us. Obviously a very standard call, but I think the action is a little strange. Obviously not going away anywhere yet on this board, so I call for 15, and the button also calls as well. We're going to a turn three ways. The turn comes the 3 of diamonds, and it brings in a backdoor flush draw. Now, considering that the small blind checks, I'm feeling pretty good about my hand right now, so when actioned onto me, I bet $45 for value, mainly trying to target any 9x holding. Weird enough, though, both players make the call for 45. So the pot is building, and we're going to a river. The river is the jack of spades, so now it's very unlikely that someone's holding a jack, I think. And weird enough, we take another line. Small blind bets $25 once again. It seems like a really weird spot, and potentially just seems like a blocker bet. He has a hand with showdown and doesn't want someone to raise, I guess. Obviously, I just can't raise, unfortunately, even though I think I'm good a high percentage of the time here. So I just make the call, considering I can't really raise with a pair of 10s. So I call, the button folds, the small blind shows 10-9 for flopped second pair and open-ended, and we take this one down with ace-10.
Always a lot.
The last hand of the night, we pick up pocket 10s under the gun, and here opening up the action to $15. We get some action as 3 players make the call. We're going to a flop. Flop comes ace 10 5, 2 spades out there. What a beautiful flop for us. There's a flush draw, there's an ace out there. Let's go and get some value. I bet $40, and only the middle position player makes the call. He's the same player from last hand who had 10-9 actually, so we're going to a turn heads up. The turn comes the 8 of spades, and this is not really great. It's not really the best card in the world, obviously, as the flush draw gets there. And here, I'm actually 50-50 between whether I want to slow down and check, or just continue betting for value and charge 1 spade holdings. Here, I just decided to end up just checking it. Really just 50-50, like I said, so I'm not entirely sure. But he bets $80, and I have a pretty easy call with a set, and hopefully we can just boat up and make our decision in our life so much easier. We call the $80, and we're off to a river. The river is a queen, not a card that changes a whole lot, so here when I check on the turn, definitely going to be just checking again on the river. I check. He throws out a bet of $150. I snap call this because obviously folding is out of the question. He shows us a hand that we're pretty surprised to see. King Jack offsuit with no spades. He got there on the river, a nice gut shot, and we were pretty surprised to lose to a straight. So, leaving with a sour taste in my mouth, even though we ran pretty well today. Overall, really good session, of course. When you leave with over $2,000, it's always a good time. But I was in the game for 1,600, out of the game for 2,090. And for as well as I ran, it wasn't really, it's a pretty small profit. I mean, considering I did only play for less than 4 hours, surprisingly. I wasn't here for too long, but you know, we'll take the win for sure, absolutely, after punting off $600 in the very beginning. And I would have loved to win that pocket 10s hand. That's all. Really wasn't expecting King Jack there for a straight, so that was crazy. Anyways, that's the video. Hopefully you enjoyed. Hopefully you enjoyed sweating out these hands, and we didn't punt off too much because we always find a way to crawl back somehow. one of these times I'm not going to be able to crawl back and it'll be an absolutely disgusting session. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. Leave a like if you enjoyed. Comment down below for one of those chips. And yeah, I'll see you guys next video. Peace.